Hi guys, I'm just going to start a presentation about the regulation of sperm maturation in the germinal epithelium. So that's just like how sperm is developed from a small cell into the little tadpole that it is. Um, Before I do so though, I do want to give a brief overview of like the male reproductive system just so you guys would know what I'm talking about while I'm giving you information. So in the male reproductive system, that includes the penis, the scrotum, the testes, the epididymis, the vas deferens, the prostate, and the seminal vessels. So that's why I included this diagram just so you could see. Um, so right here would be the seminiferous tubules. This is obviously the penis. The urethra goes through the penis, and the urethra gives it's part of the urinary and the reproductive system. So when men ejaculate, their sperm comes through the urethra, or when they have to urinate, that is also through the urethra. Then we have the scrotum. That's the thick-skinned sac surrounding the testes. So it's like a protective barrier of the little sacs that contain the sperm. Then the testes are those oval bodies. So they typically are about like 1.5 to 3 inches in length, and 2 to 3 teaspoons in volume. And that's kind of like female menstruation. So when girls are on their periods, usually the blood volume is about 1 to 2 teaspoons as well. So it's a very small amount. Um, the testes produce sperm and testosterone for the men. The epididymis is a single coiled microscopic tube that measures almost 20 feet in length. And you're probably wondering why it's like, how could it be that long if it's such a small, and it's in a really small, tight area? It's because that is a really compressed, and like I said, it's coiled. So that's how they're able to get that in there. So what the epididymis does, it collects sperm from the testes and provides the environment for sperm to mature. So that's where that maturation occurs at. And it acquires the ability to move through the female reproductive system in order to fertilize the ovum, in order to like procreate. One epididymis lies against each testes, so against each of those two lies an epididymis. The vas deferens is a firm tube that transports the sperm from the epididymis, and the prostate lies just under the bladder and surrounds the urethra. The seminal vessels is located above the prostate and forms ejaculatory ducts. So if you could see here, it's going to show you that prostate gland, and it's right here. And like I said, so it lies just under the bladder and surrounds the urethra. So this would be your bladder. It lies right below it, and it surrounds the urethra. So as you can see, the urethra would come through down into the penis in order to excrete anything. Then we have these seminiferous tubules that I would like to explain. This is where the sperm production occurs, like I did mention in the last slide. Seminiferous tubules have 3 compartments. So there's the tubule lumen, there's the basal compartment, and the interstitial fluid, which is the fluid that surrounds, it's going to be like right in here. This is the epididymis. So this gives you a better visual about how I said it's about 20 feet in length and it's very coiled. This is how it's gonna like look. The seminiferous tubules also has 2 important cells. There are 2 different cell types. They're the spermatogonia cells and the Sertoli cells. So with these cells, the spermatogonia cells are germ cells that undergo meiotic division to become sperm, and the Sertoli cells regulate the sperm development. So they both do 2 different things in the human body of a male in the reproductive system, and they have very important functions. Now we have spermatogenesis. So this is the actual development of the sperm into the full spermatozoa, and that's the Basically, spermatogenesis is the production or the development of mature spermatozoa. So what this is meaning is the maturation of a sperm cell into a full sperm. This has 3 stages. So the first stage is spermatocytogenesis, which is like a mitosis. This is when the stem cells of the sperm divide mitotically in order to replace themselves and produce cells that begin differentiation. So in that first stage is when mitosis happens, and in that phase is when those cells divide in order to create more sperm, and like different variables of sperm. The second stage is meiosis. So these cells are in prophase of the first meiotic division and are primary spermatocytes. This is typically a long stage and shows many spermatocytes here. The primary spermatocytes go through the first meiotic stage and become secondary spermatocytes, then quickly complete the second meiotic division. So, as you can see here, this is how the sperm cell would start, and then it would go through that mitosis, the division, in order to create that differentiation. Then it would become meiosis. So there becomes 4 gametes, I should say, or alleles, and only 2 of the 4 are going to be further produced. So after this stage would make the primary spermatocytes, and this is when that cell begins to actually develop. So the products of the second meiotic division are called spermatids, and those are spherical cells with interphase nuclei, and it's positioned high in the epithelium. Spermatids go through a metamorphosis into spermatozoa, and they occur in early through late stages. I'm going to talk more about the spermatids in the next few slides, but just moving on, the third phase is spermiogenesis, and that's the metamorphosis of spherical spermatids into elongated spermatozoa. No further mitosis or meiosis occurs. So in this stage, the acrosome forms and the flagellar apparatus forms. I don't know, I'm stuttering a lot, excuse me. And more excess cytoplasm is separated and left into the Sertoli cell. And like I said, with that Sertoli cell, that's where the regulation of sperm development comes from. So to get from spermatogenesis, there are 3 stages of it. It goes from spermatocytogenesis to meiosis, then spermiogenesis. Each of these phases are different. So right here would be the spermatocytogenesis, and then the meiosis would be right here, and following along after that is when these primary and secondary spermatocytes become spermatids, and that's going to be the spermiogenesis. And then it's going to finish off into the spermatozoa, which is a sperm cell, the full developed one. So in spermiogenesis, that's the last stage in the sperm development. Spermiogenesis is a process of metamorphosis from a round cell with typical organelles to a highly specialized elongated cell, well adapted for traversing the male and female reproductive tracts and achieving fertilization of an egg. This is also known as spermatogenesis. So spermiogenesis and spermatogenesis could be interchangeable. With spermiogenesis, though, there are 4 stages that the sperm goes through. So it's the Golgi, the cap, the tail, and the maturation. So with the Golgi, the spermatids, like I said in the last slide, they begin to develop polarity. Also, the DNA in a spermatid, they undergoes the packaging to become highly condensed. So in this picture I have here, you can see the spermatocyte right here, and that Sertoli cell is right here. So remember, that's where the maturation of sperm stems from. With the cap, the Golgi apparatus surrounds the condensed nucleus, becoming the acrosomal cap around the sperm head. So that kind of makes sense because sperm has like a little tail, and then you're gonna see the sperm head. So the cap is basically uh, it's like a little hat that the sperm wears. The cap. That's how you can remember it. The tail, like I said, it's part of the centriole of the cell that grows to become the tail of the sperm, and it's called the manchette. So what happens is the cell, in order to produce that tail, the centriole of the cell starts to extend outward, and it grows in order to become the tail. Then the maturation of the sperm cell is when the axis cytoplasm is phagocytosed by surrounding Sertoli cells in the testes. So any axis cytoplasm is sucked in so that the full sperm could actually develop. So with the spermatocyte movement, this is how the spermatocytes move in the cell. And I included this diagram to give you a better visual and the importance of the Sertoli cell. There, you can see the Sertoli cell is mentioned in a lot of diagrams that I have in this little PowerPoint. So the spermatocytes, they travel towards the lumen, as you can see. That's the direction of the movement of the primary spermatocyte in the adluminal compartment. That's so that they can move out of the testes. Then we have the basal compartment. Even though the spermatocyte is moving towards the lumen, we have these little compartments, and this just shows how it moves. Then finally, I have the hormonal control in the male reproductive system. So, as you can see in this diagram, the hypothalamus is triggered, and thus after that, that releases hormones after it's triggered into the anterior pituitary. And then the anterior pituitary releases more hormones into the interstitial cells and the seminiferous tubules. And that could lead to the luteinizing hormone, that's what LH stands for, stimulating the interstitial cells to produce testosterone. Or it could lead to the follicle stimulating hormone in order to stimulate the seminiferous tubules to produce the sperm. So either the luteinizing hormone produces the testosterone or the sperm. So testosterone inhibits luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone production in the anterior pituitary. So yeah, I like this slide because it really shows, it gives you a good visual as to how when the hypothalamus is triggered, how it could just move right into the anterior pituitary and then go both of these ways, and then you can see that as through the testes it goes either this or sperm production. So it's very easy to understand with the hormonal control. But with spermatogenesis, I know it's kind of difficult, but it's like meiosis, mitosis going on with the cells, except with sperm cells. So, yeah. So there's 3 stages in spermatogenesis. There's 4 stages in spermiogenesis. And with the sperm movement, that goes towards the lumen. And then with hormonal control, just know that the hypothalamus releases the hormone into the anterior pituitary once stimulated. And then the anterior pituitary releases the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. And they could either go into interstitial cells to go towards and produce testosterone, or it could go into the seminiferous tubules and produce sperm. And that's all I have for you guys.